be fearless and really believe in yourself, because you don't know where your journey is going to take you. And a lot of times you'll feel like you're doing things that aren't necessarily moving the ball forward, but ultimately you create relationships or you have experiences that you never knew you were going to have, and all of a sudden you're in a different place. So don't sign off on things or decide you're not going to do things just because it's not your perfect job or your perfect place to live. You never know what's going to happen. So I think being open is one of the best things that you can do. I overcome obstacles by taking it a piece at a time and a step at a time and just saying, okay, here's the big obstacle. What can I do now to just move things forward and put my head down and, work through it piece by piece? Because I think if you look at the whole thing, it can be very overwhelming. But if you just say, okay, I can handle this and I'm going to get this done, and then I'll handle this and I'll get that done, then ultimately it seems much more attainable and easier to deal with. Financial literacy and math go hand in hand. And I think a lot of times girls and women don't think that they're as strong in those subjects as men. And I don't think that's true at all, but it's so important. And I think what happens in school is you take a math class and you just don't see how it applies to the rest of your life. And it's something that you will use every single day as an adult. It's something to help you buy a house, how to manage your personal finances, how to manage a business. I mean, it is so integral and it can really be applicable to anything that you do. And so to take advantage of that and to really engage yourself in math is, I think, a hugely important skill to have. And I think it's something that girls need to focus on more. Even when you end up being in the creative fields like I'm in, math is still something you can never get away from. For me, mentorship is a pay it forward idea where you find people at different points of your life who inspire you, who push you, who might make you do things that you're not comfortable with, but teach you about yourself and what you're capable of. And then ultimately, how do you pay that forward? And how do you become a mentor to someone else? And so it's not just a one-way street. You're not just having mentors, but it's also ultimately you go on to give back and to inspire others to really reach inside themselves and be the best of themselves. So for me, mentorship is an ongoing experience, and it goes both ways. You have something at your fingertips that I never had, which is your phone. And you can use your phone to create wonderful films now. So just play. That's the biggest thing. I'd say just play around with it and see what you come up with and be as creative as possible. And the other thing is try writing. Try writing your own stories. Try writing up whatever comes into your imagination, putting it down on paper and seeing what you come up with, and then how you take that and work with other people to turn that into a film. So how do you create dialogue? How do you create a scene? These are all things that you can do with your imagination, and they don't have to be structured, and you can play around with them. And then also watch as many films as possible and watch things on YouTube and on other digital formats to see what speaks to you and what stories are interesting. The nice thing about film is that there's really no set guidelines, so you can kind of come up with whatever speaks to you and run with it. I think it's important to start with saying that I'm part of the independent film world and not the studio system. So film financing works completely different if you're Paramount or Disney. When you're independent, it's entirely on you to raise all the money for a film. And that might be done through individual investments, might be done through grants, and it can also be done through loans from banks and foreign sales. So basically you sell the film in advance before it's done. And usually it's pulling all those different pieces together to get a film financed. For me, when it comes to speaking with investors, it's really having a strong understanding of why the film is a good investment and being very forthcoming about the risks of investing in film. It's not a straightforward investment in any way. A lot of times people won't get their money back, but they get to be involved with something that's special and unique. And often that's a selling point more than making their money back. So that's the story that I have to tell to investors, and really, really believing it too, and knowing that people are trusting you with their money and with their time and valuing them and that commitment, and making sure they feel like they're getting continually communicated to, understanding how their money is being used, and that they get to be along for the ride is very important. So, and then also the grant programs, there's a number of grants available to filmmakers, but you have to be a strong writer and you have to be able to convey a story, not just the story of the film, but the story of how the film's going to be made through writing. And so being a very strong writer is a very important skill set for a producer. When you're looking at, I don't want to only make one film, right? So I don't want to take someone's money, have them have a terrible experience, and then decide they never want to invest in film ever again. So I feel a profound responsibility to make sure that whatever ends up happening with the film, because a lot of times you are not in control of how the film does out in the marketplace, but you are in control of the experience the investor has. So that's making sure that they feel like they're receiving the truth about how their money is being used, what kind of returns they might see or may not see, and feel like they are an integral part of the team. And I think part of that is just really being over-communicative and really honest. And I think a lot of people would say that the film industry honesty is hard to come by, but I don't think that's true. I think a lot of people are doing it because they love the craft and they love storytelling and they want to get their stories out there. And I think that's what's appealing to investors too, is it's a different type of investment. It's a way to have an impact outside their money. And so you just need to really be truthful and approachable when you're working with investors.